Good morning, Wind Chasers. Welcome to another episode of Chasing the Wind. Hey, as a pastor, hopefully as a believer, as a leader, I need to be growing. I love what John Maxwell says. Change is inevitable. Growth is optional. I want to choose to grow. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about growing today. One of the things I do is growing is I do check into leadership things. I do not have all the answers. I know that's hard for you to believe. But anyway, there's a lot of growth. We all have a lot of growth. One of the things that, the first things that was said to my cohort for my doctorate was this. Doctoral work is about asking better questions. And so I've always been accused of asking questions. I like to learn, not necessarily the way that they taught me in school, but I do like to learn new things. I'm a YouTube junkie. I'm a documentary junkie. And you got to sift through it. I know there's all sorts of things. Anyway, one of the things I ran across the other day on leadership was from a pastor out in Washington, D.C. named Mark Batterson. I like Mark Batterson's stuff. So there was one thing that he said, though, and he said this, and it's just been sitting with me, especially during all this COVID stuff, this stuff that we're all trying to navigate right now. And that is this. He says, I reserve the right to get smarter later. I reserve the right to get smarter later. Right now, I have made the comment that I missed all the classes on how to pastor during a pandemic, so I'm trying to navigate this stuff with my church. It's easier said than done. But here's the thing. We are learning new things all the time, every day. We're having to figure out how to navigate things. It was hard pastoring anyway. But thank God I have wonderful people praying for me that keep me going. But I just was remembering this, is that and I'm telling myself, I reserve the right to get smarter later. We're always growing. Even the Apostle Paul in Philippians, he said, forgetting what is behind, I press on toward what is ahead. There's a little bit of education there. If we do not learn, I remember Dave Rohde always saying to me in Milwaukee when I was first started out in ministry, and something would happen, and he'd say, now, what did you learn from this, Mark? I always wanted to just punch him in the face in the name of Jesus. I'm like, I don't want to learn anything from this. I want it to go away. He said, what did you learn from this? If we're not learning some things about ourselves, about others, about life, we're wasting a good crisis. And God does not waste a good crisis. He doesn't waste anything for that matter. But from 1 Corinthians 8, verse 2, Paul's talking about food sacrificed to idols, but before he gets there, he says, now about food sacrificed to idols, we know that we all possess knowledge. Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. Isn't that great? Verse 2, here we go. The man who thinks he knows something does not yet know as he ought to know. Boy, isn't that one of those phrases? I know, but I don't know what I don't know, and what I don't know might hurt me. It might, won't hurt me, that people say, but it also might hurt you. Folks, there's a lot of things. People, when I married my wife, we'd dated, long distance for about a year. She was off in New York. I was at college. We'd be at college together and stuff. And it's funny now, some 28 years later, we kind of laugh about things. It'll be 28 years, I guess, in 93. Yeah, 28 years next year. And we kind of laugh about things that we learn about each other. Like she springs on me a couple of years ago that she really doesn't like pork chops. I'm like, what? What do you mean you don't like pork chops? We've always eaten pork chops. It's like my mom giving me chicken legs and then was surprised when she found out I didn't like chicken legs. It's just, I just did it because it was what we ate, and that's my wife. She'll just eat whatever you put in front of her. Me, I'm like, yeah, no, I ain't eating that thing. We need to be always growing and learning. A friend of mine, I've told you this before, but probably you need to hear it again. I'm not repeating, I'm reviewing, as my wife would say. Write your theology in pencil with a very big eraser. Because about the time you think you have your theology figured out, about the time you think you have God figured out, he's going to spring something on you and show you that, wow, well, I didn't see that one coming. I didn't know that about you, God. And that's the beautiful thing about a relationship with God. Modernity said, oh, we got God figured out. But prior to that, that's why I love reading the early church fathers, studying the early church fathers. They were trying to figure this stuff out. And it was not a problem to be solved. God is not a problem to be solved. It is a relationship to be lived. And God is showing us stuff all the time if we will let him teach us. That requires a little bit of humility. That's not my spiritual gift. It's not most of our spiritual gift. It's not a spiritual gift, I don't think. Maybe it is. Doesn't matter. Mark Batterson says this, so leadership starts with listening and lots of questions. To ask questions is not a bad thing. It leads us to more things. It's like sometimes doubt can be a blessing because we can either embrace that doubt and say, yeah, I'm not going to, God isn't there, whatever the deal. God doesn't do that. Or we can say, wait a minute, I'm starting to think this through. I need to lean into this and say, God, meet me in this. Show me something that I don't know. So, Wind Chaser, I'm going to leave it right there for you. Keep learning, keep growing. If you're still here, God's got something he wants to teach you. So until next time, Wind Chasers, keep chasing the wind because the wind is chasing you. Grace and peace.